shall find out that this epoch, this season, was celebrated many, many thousands of years before the Christian era. And in all of the literature, it is stated that the sun gods incarnated during this period. So its significance is tremendous. It brings light into the world. And we all know that behind the physical sun, there is the spiritual sun. So, this period is regenerative. It is a spiritual rebirth. And I shall quote directly from a couple of writings that HPB had published during that period. She says, to put it in the mildest terms, she is describing the process that goes on during this period. To put it in the mildest terms, this gaudy display tallies ill, she says, with the democratic feelings and the truly divine contempt for riches of the Son of Man, who had not where to lay his head. She's talking about the Christian world and how the celebration of birth of the Christ is brought about. And she's comparing the poor manger where the baby was placed during his early hours of birth versus the Christian celebrations that take place in these very rich environments. And then goes on to say, the Roman Church acted wisely in severely forbidding her parishioners to either read or interpret the Gospels for themselves, and leaving the book, as long as it was possible, to proclaim its truths in Latin, the voice of one crying in the wilderness. In that, she but followed the wisdom of the ages. Now she's touching about on all of the religions. She says the wisdom of the old Aryans, which is also justified of her children, as neither the modern Hindu devotee understands a word of Sanskrit, nor the modern Parsi one syllable of Zen, so for the average Roman Catholic, the Latin is no better than hieroglyphics. So she's touching on all of the religions, saying that this secretiveness about what was contained in the book in its original version was not given to the public because they did not want us to think for ourselves. And that is the first criteria for getting at truth, is that we become self-sufficient, self-thinking, self-energized individualities. So she says this gives the Brahmanical high priest, Zoroastrian Mobed, and the Roman Catholic pontiff unlimited opportunities for evolving new religious dogmas out of the depths of their own fancy for the benefit of their respective churches. So, the bells are ringing merrily at midnight in England, the continent, Western Europe, and of course the Americas. So, during this festive season then, we go about celebrating, but it's kind of become an automatic reflexive activity. We don't really give deep thought as to its meaning. So, what is the meaning of this coming forth? Well, it is stated that the sun gods, Bacchus, Apollo, the Egyptian Horus, Isis, Osiris were all born during this period. So the pagans pagans celebrated this season.
It's hard to read what you
Sorry.
issues in there.
Okay. The pagans celebrated the season because all of the sun gods incarnate during this period, and we shall write them. Bach, Apollo,
Not much better.
Isis, Horus,
Try this one next.
Okay. All of the sun gods then were incarnated during this period. So for thousands of years before Christ appeared on the scene, this season was celebrated. This season is the darkest. The days are the shortest. So this coming in of the sun presents this opportunity for germination and growth in nature. Oh, gee. And growth. Well, I don't know. How is that? I'm not sure. We're not having a really good time with this today, are we? So this germination and growth in nature gives an indication as to what is going to come, because the sun has done its southern journey and has returned north again, and the seed that is in the soil under the snow is protected, and it's given a chance to grow again, and it brings this life force. And she states that during this period the life of earth is energized, and that if humanity can put itself in accord with nature, its progression would be increased. So the winter solstice then antecedes the birth of Christ, that was later celebrated as Christmas. And I want to show you that that was not a date that was fixed, that during the 4th century, Cyril of Jerusalem, Pope Julius I, ordered the bishops to make an investigation and come finally to some agreement as to the presumable date of the nativity of Christ. So their choice, the bishop's choice, fell on the 25th of December. And in fact, she says this was a very unfortunate choice for the Christians, because Dupuis, Volney, and Higgins all, by clear astronomical data, showed that ancient peoples had celebrated the birth of their sun gods on that very same day. And Dupuis shows that the celestial sign of the Virgin and Child was in existence several thousand years before Christ. So, even if we leave these three, which by Christian standards were marked as infidels to Christianity, we can go to the Christian Bishop of Ratisbon, the most learned man of the Middle Ages, the Dominican Albertus Magnus, who says, "The sign of the celestial virgin rises above the horizon at the moment in which we fix the birth of the Lord Jesus Christ." So we see that this was something that the Christian fathers took from the pagan world and adopted for their own purposes. However that may be, still the season is one of the most wonderful seasons of the whole year. And this student's aim today is going to be to show how this can be applied to each human being and how we can progress a lot faster if we take advantage of it. It is stated in the writings that in this philosophy of the masters, at all times we must keep unity and brotherhood in the background. This is very important. Unity and brotherhood. We cannot work for ourselves alone or desire progress for ourselves alone, but taking into consideration the advantage of all these recurrent seasons to uplift, we can move from plane to plane and bring about change. There is a tide in the affairs of men, taken at the flood leads on to fortune, it is said, and this is merely an expression and recognition of the same law of recurrent impression. So what is this? What is that saying? It is saying that we make promises to ourselves at the beginning of the year, and then we go through the year and come back to that same resurgence during the December, end of December, beginning of January, because the life of Earth is renewed during that period from December to March. We in it can take advantage of that opportunity. So then each life, as it has been produced by the life or lives preceding it, and the aspirations that those expressions had brought about, is going to come back to us. Whenever there's a spiritual idea in the heart or in the mind, this cycle can pick up on that and make the effort in this direction a more profound one. The time is ripe, but it will pass again if we don't take advantage of it. So if we put ourselves in that tidal wave and go with it with precision-oriented effort, then it will bring its results. Here it says, the soul has a series of progressive awakenings. Progressive awakening. And we have to remember that. Because when a baby is born, what happens? It's not just a body that is being born, that's a soul that's being born. But it has a conception, a prenatal state, and then birth. So the soul then follows this same procedure. But don't take the analogy too far, but keep it in mind that this is the process that it goes through. So self-conscious and deliberate effort is required. For that conception to take place, what must happen? We must acknowledge that we are souls. Until the soul comes to the realization that it is a soul, that awakening is not there. So what is that? That means that we take responsibility and we want to build our future by our own effort. This is a difficult undertaking, but if one of us has done it, all of us can do it. So the body lives before birth, it develops in utero, and then it is given birth. So, a lot of us, a lot of human beings at this stage of our development